Never in my life did I think I was going to have to talk so much about tiger fucking while talking about Wicked. Welcome to part 2 of me recapping the Wicked book and trying not to have a breakdown about it. Picking up where we left off from part 1, the gang is all at Shiz University. We've been introduced to most of our main characters. We've just got one remaining to meet, and that is Fiyero. Fiyero is introduced to us with a description of him having skin that is covered in diamonds, which I'm not going to lie, made me immediately picture this. But they're like blue diamond tribal tattoos that he has all over his face and body. He also has a child bride. Or I guess not a child bride because they were both the same age when they were betrothed. But he has been married since the age of 7 to a girl who was also 7 when they were married to each other. Yet again, with this book, that is just dropped in so casually that Fiyero already has a full wife. Also, in the book, these characters are like a proper little group, like Glinda, elphaba, Bock, Nessa, Fiyero, and a couple of others that aren't in the musical. They're like a proper little friendship group. They're sort of unofficially known as the Charmed Circle, and they like go for brunch and stuff. It's very sweet. I understand why they didn't have time to portray that in the musical, but it's a shame because it's very sweet. So now we have to talk about the Philosophy Club. Hey, when Glinda and elphaba go to the Emerald City to see the wizard, were you wondering what the other characters were doing back at Shiz? Were you wondering if they were perhaps attending a sex club? So Glinda and elphaba go off to the Emerald City, and the others, including Bock and Fiyero, go to a place called the Philosophy Club, which is a dive bar slash burlesque lounge slash den of nightmares. And inside this club is a mixture of humans, animals, like animals with humanoid characteristics who can like speak and stuff, like Dr. Dillamond, elves, dwarves, all sorts, just like dancing and grinding up on each other. And then they're taken to another room, which is like a little in the round theatre, and it has this incense being pumped into the air, which makes everyone super horny. And there is a dwarf dressed in leather who sort of chooses 3 volunteers from the audience. I don't think it's very consensual, considering they've all inhaled this like sex shisha. But one of the people he chooses is a guy called Tibbet, who is one of our Charmed Circle friends who didn't make the musical. One is a strange woman, and one is a tiger. Like a walking, talking tiger who's wearing clothes, but still a tiger. And they invite Tibbet and the woman and the tiger up on stage, where there's like masks and blindfolds and scented oils, and they kind of tie them up, and the implication is that activities ensue while everyone else around them watches. And like, this is such a wild thing to be reading about while there is actual plot happening somewhere else in the book. Like, Glinda and elphaba have gone to speak to the wizard to further the plot, and rather than going with them straight away, we've stayed behind to hear about this. Also, I'm going to do a minor spoiler for later in the book. This guy Tibbet only appears once more in the book, and it's when he's seriously ill and dying of a mysterious disease that it's implied he got from the tiger. This guy dies of a tiger STD because of what happens in this chapter. R.I.P. Tibbet, you had maybe the most horrific fate of all. Anyway, back to the plot, please. Glinda and Elphaba go to the Emerald City. They try to see the wizard. He sends them away, and Elphaba decides not to go back to Shiz. This is the defying gravity moment, but it truly means so little in the book. You don't really see Elphaba make the decision. She just bounces and doesn't really say why. We skip forwards a few years because this book loves a time jump. And Fiyero comes to the Emerald City and re-meets Elphaba after not seeing her for several years. He is still married to the arranged marriage bride and has 3 children who he is actively neglecting, but nevertheless, him and Elphaba begin an affair. And hey, have you ever wondered what colour Elphaba's hair is? Like her non-head hair? It's purple. I don't know why we had to know that, but I know that, and now you do too. Also, it's worth noting that Glinda and Fiyero are at no point in the book romantically involved with each other, which means they just put that into the musical so they could have their 2 female leads fall out over a boy. 'Cause women, am I right? Anyway, Elphaba and Fiyero continue their affair for a while. I do hear a little too much about Fiero's junk in this section for my liking. Like, it's from his POV, and he talks about his own a few times, and it's weird every time. Also, Fiyero does meet Glinda again at this point. She is married to an old rich guy, good for her, but she also seems kind of sad and misses Elphaba a lot. Elphaba is, of course, doing her sort of anti-wizard vigilanteism at this point. Fiyero doesn't really know much about it until one day he follows her and sees her attempting to assassinate Madame Morrible. She doesn't, she's unsuccessful, but on the way back from following her, Fiyero is followed by some of the wizard's guards who break in to Elphaba's place where he's staying, and importantly, no one does any Elika-nama-nama-naming about it. That man's just dead. R.I.P. Fiyero, you were kind of just a guy. He doesn't really have the same personality in the book he has in the musical. He's just kind of a regular nice guy / deadbeat dad. But obviously Elphaba is devastated. She runs away to join a nunnery where she stays for 7 years, and during that time gives birth to a baby boy. So that is part 2 of recapping Wicked. My brain did nearly melt trying to absorb all of that, but I'm determined to finish this book. So I will be back with part 3, which will be the final third of Wicked the book.